Hello. So small disclaimer before I begin the review. I was actually given a review code for this game, but I didn't notice until after I played through it on Game Pass, so I never redeemed the code, so I'm not sure if I should put that as I got a review code or not. I never redeemed it again. I played it through Game Pass, so not sure. I'd love to hear your opinions on the comments below, what I should do, but technically I did pay for the game through Game Pass, so yeah, that's just been something I've been literally like debating myself with. Either way, let's just get into the review, and now let's begin. So Scorn is an extremely mixed received game. Judging by the Steam reviews, you're either going to go into one or two categories. You're either going to like it or you're going to hate it. Haven't seen this much polarization since Death Stranded. Now, Scorn has had many gamers drooling at the mouth for months since its reveal. The visual design screams sci-fi horror, and we're not going to talk about the recent crap in that genre that has been releasing, but the crown daddy of them all, Alien. I mean, it's hard not to see the comparisons. And now that the game is here, how does it hold up? Well, not that well, and given that, again, the Steam mixed reviews, this is going to be a polarizing take. Either you like it or you hate it. Scorn opens up with the premise similar to Soma or Agony. I know, remember that dumpster fire of a game? You're basically a nobody, just some random guy in an unhappy world with the closest thing to sunshine and happiness is not feeling like something is going to rip your body apart. Scorn is a world full of misery, where the best thing you can hope for is a quick death, and you're going to be hoping for context to this incredible world, but good luck finding it and piecing it together. The world is a nightmarish combination of techno-organic structures composed of machine, flesh, bone, and, of course, lots and lots of bones. So bodies are everywhere, and the things that are usually alive want you dead or want to be dead. This is merging of body horror and visual nightmares is done tastefully though. Body horror is one of those nope moments I have in life. While I am an avid horror fan, this type of horror usually has me quivering like a Japanese schoolgirl who's seen a tentacle. But nothing that causes pain is done without purpose in this game. Whether it's fusing a key into your flesh or tearing apart a soul for its arm, it's needed for you to progress. The developers aren't showing you this bloody carnage without reason, and I do still have to look away at certain scenes, but I appreciate that they made these graphic scenes without the reason being that they wanted to disturb the player. But what are you heading towards? Why do you endure this much pain? That's the mystery here, and much of Scorn is about the player figuring out what exactly is going on. There are no collectibles or things to talk to. All you have is what is shown and the player's actions. There's information about life, death, birth, and the cycle of life, but the overall narrative is shrouded in mystery. I played through this game about 3 times, taking about 4 hours for each time, and bit by bit, I am piecing the story together, but I'm still sure that I've gotten a lot of things wrong. Man, that ending explained is going to be horrible, but I have to do it. Unlike From Software's long list of titles or the Little Nightmare games, which I'm a huge fan of, the information is provided in those games where you can seek it out and piece it together relatively easily if you know what you're looking for, but Scorn does very little to provide context about what's happening. Most of the time, it's attempting to do the opposite, as more is shown, but not enough to give you even a fifth of the entire picture. Unfortunately, that's what Scorn is, an atmospheric journey that is pleasing to look at, but offers very little substance, like meeting an Instagram model in real life. The gameplay of Scorn is extremely basic to the point of being boring. Much of the game focuses on puzzles, and these do complement the game's narrative structure. Little is told to the player, and it's up to you to figure out the solution based on the visual information provided. Take a look at the first puzzle. Looking at this for the first time, I was confused about what I had to do with these eggs. It took me about 10 minutes before I realized I had to interact with the glowing ones and put them into the highlighted icon. This goes for all the puzzles moving forward, and it can be a pain if you mess up. There's no restart option to set the puzzle back to its original state, so if you screw up badly, you'll need to reboot the entire game because there's no checkpoint restart in the menu. Sometimes the game will repeat the same puzzles like in Act 2, where you have to constantly perform the same dial puzzle for these encounters. It just seems like pattern for the game. I'm not really sure why you have to keep doing it, but, you know, that's what the developers intended. I wish I could say more that where the pain of the gameplay stops, but it goes down to the bone and twists as you engage in combat. There are 3 things you never want to say about combat, and Scorn has all 3. It is boring, it is tedious, and it is dull. You start off with a jackhammer thing that has to charge after 2 strikes, and it takes longer than Square Enix developing a new main entry in the Kingdom Hearts franchise for this thing to charge. Eventually, you'll get guns, a rifle, and a more powerful rifle to engage with basic enemies that come in a few forms. There's also another weapon I won't say for the sake of spoilers. The enemies are serviceable, and I wasn't expecting the Evil Within tier level enemy design, but fighting these things is such a pain. Not because they're hard, but because the combat is just boring. Which is surprising because it's clear that a lot of passion went into the enemies' animations. Dealing enough damage causes them to cry out in pain. In fact, you can even disable them to the point that they're still alive, but at the brink of death. This thing literally could not die until I dealt the final blow and would just remain crying out in pain every time I passed it by. That's some Last of Us Part 2 dedication there. I get that combat isn't supposed to be the focus of this type of game, but even then it should be serviceable, like this is below average. The developers did put in a lot of effort in the reloading animation, swapping weapons out, and the design of the weapons, so it seems wasteful that it was paired with such a below average system. Especially considering the boss fight, which I won't spoil, but dear God, it went from being boring to just generally being annoying. God, how much I hated that boss fight. The developers did include limited supplies. The living pod that you get holds ammo, which can be used for a different variety of your guns. Each gun needs a specific ammo type, and it also holds your health. Both need to be refilled at one-time use stations, and you're given enough items so it's rare that you would ever run out of stuff. As long as you're not an idiot and waste everything, you'll have enough to deal with everything in your way. Now, the developers even allow you to see how much ammo and health you have left if you look down at your waist. I mean, you don't really need to do it, you could just bring up the interface, but I thought it was a pretty cool detail where they show that you can look at it at your hand. I mean, I get what they were trying to go with like the Dead Space, where Dead Space interface, where you can see everything on the screen, but, you know, it's just a cool detail. Now, Scorn's visual design and atmosphere is worthy of praise. I've seen so many people talk about how it looks so cool, but that only goes so far. You can go into an elegant restaurant, but if the food is poor, chances are you're not going to have a good time. Scorn shows you this incredibly bleak world that screams to the player, you want to know what happened here, why you're here, and how this ends. But instead, I left Scorn thinking, that's it? Oh, okay, then whatever, at least I got the achievements. It's clear that Scorn isn't a game for everyone. Like, at its core, it is an atmospheric journey where you try to piece together what exactly happened here based on the visual design provided to the player. It is great in that design, the atmosphere, the tension, the enemy designs, it's so cool. But it's not a really good video game experience. It's basically you just going from point A to point B to solve these various different challenges, but there's very little excitement along the way. Yeah, there's shock value to it, but there isn't exactly something that enticed me to keep pushing myself forward, other than seeing how it all ends. Again, I won't spoil the ending, but in reality, I just felt like the game's experience was worthy of playing through, but by the end, I felt like it just wasn't worth the aggravation of the combat. Either way, this is a game that will not appeal to everyone. I would say if you've played games like Soma, like Agony, or even Outlast, if you had a very good experience with those games, if you had a good experience with Agony, wow, just saying. But either way, if you found pleasure playing those games, I would say Scorn is up your alley. It's one of those titles that's more about the experience than it is actually playing the game. I would call it a walk-in simulator to an extent, but the puzzles actually allow it to go further than that because some of these puzzles are pretty damn hard. And yeah, it is a pretty decent game. I would recommend that you do play it if you are into those types of atmospheric journeys. But if you're not, chances are you're going to become incredibly frustrated with Scorn. So either way, you either fall between you like it or you hate it. But from my experience, I thought it was worth the journey to an extent, but without that gameplay experience, it probably would have been a way better experience for myself. Either way, thank you for watching. You're the real champs here for staying till the end. If you want to support me, please follow me on Twitch, support me on Patreon because this channel has been demonetized by YouTube, and I'll see you all next time. Stay awesome, everyone.